Hi there. If you're a subscriber to my YouTube channel, you'll know that every day I've been posting um, videos that I've done in the past, sort of counting down to Anne Boleyn's execution, giving you details of what happened on this day in history in 1536. And one of those videos actually is on the 20th of May, sort of what happened sort of straight after Anne's execution. And I just wanted to do an off the cuff video, unscripted, just some thoughts, because I've been running my online event, Anne Boleyn, the last 18 days. Even after this many years, been researching Anne since 2009, it just really brought it to me just what an impact everything must have had on the royal court. Now, on this day in history, the 20th of May, 1536, the day after his wife's execution, Henry VIII moved on. This is what Eustace Chapuis writes to inform another ambassador of the goings-on in London. Has just been informed, the bearer of this having already mounted, that Mrs. Seymour, that's Seymour, Jane Seymour, came secretly by river this morning to the king's lodging, and that the promise and betrothal was made at 9 o'clock. The king means it to be kept secret till Whitsuntide, but everybody begins already to murmur by suspicion, and several affirm that long before the death of the other, there was some arrangement, which sounds ill in the ears of the people, who will certainly be displeased at what has been told me, if it be true, viz., that yesterday the king, immediately on receiving news of the decapitation of the Poutin, entered his barge and went to the said Seymour, whom he has lodged a mile from him in a house by the river. So we know from that, I'm reading from my book, plug for my book there. We know from this letter that the king had gone to Jane Seymour as soon as he heard news that Anne Boleyn had been executed. He wasted no time. He went to see her. And the very next day, they became betrothed. So you get rid of your wife, second wife, and you move on and get engaged the next day. You can understand why there were murmurs and that, and why Chapuis is quite shocked. So there's murmuring. None of this sounds good. Even those probably who believe that Anne Boleyn deserved it, or this doesn't sit right with them. They probably don't expect the king to mourn the woman that's been accused of trying to kill him. But, to move on that quickly, it's not fitting, is it? And during my event, I started thinking about what it must have been like to be at the royal court in May 1536. You've got the Queen of England being arrested and taken to the Tower of London and then executed. This is unprecedented, a Queen of England being executed. But not only that, you've got like the groom of the stool and 4 other men. They were all members of the king's privy chamber. Mark Smeaton was the lowest of them. He was a musician, but he was still a groom of the Privy Chamber. Sir Henry Norris, groom of the stool. Sir Francis Weston, William Brereton, members of the King's Privy Chamber. George Boleyn, Lord Rochford, the King's brother, and someone that has served the king loyally for many years and been in his Privy Chamber, and been a diplomat as well. A high-ranking lord. And then you've got 2 men still in the Tower. So you've got these people that have been executed, but you've got 2 men still in the Tower. Sir Richard Page and Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder. Again, both high-ranking men. Richard Page is of the Privy Chamber and is close to Cromwell. Sir Thomas Wyatt is an ambassador and a court poet. These, and they're still in the tower, and I can't remember whether it's the 18th of June or something like that. They're released, so they've still got nearly a month in the tower, a month of kind of fear, of wondering what's happening. So you've got all of these people who've been rounded up, all these courtiers just sort of disappearing. And you were just kind of, the courtiers must have thought, what's going to happen next? Who's going to be apprehended next? Has this finished? Is there going to be more? And I also think, yeah, Anne and George were such magnetic personalities, sort of larger than life personalities. I mean, Anne was queen. People gravitated to her. You know, she was a major part of court life as queen, and these men were a major part of court life. The court must have been living in fear at this time, and there must have been such a hole left by the disappearance of the queen and these courtiers. Can you imagine? I mean, I just think that George and Anne were like shining stars in that court. They were intellectual, they were witty, and they'd just been snuffed out, and the court must have just felt so empty. And then as a courtier, you've got to come around to the fact that someone who was just a maid of honour until recently is now stepping into the shoes of the queen while, you know, I won't say her body is still warm, but you know what I mean, straight after. And I know that there are people who are going to be saying to me, well, what about Anne Boleyn and Catherine of Aragon? Yeah, I know, but Catherine wasn't executed. You know, Anne was executed, and here is Henry VIII just bringing another queen into the courts. It's not wasting any time. And so I'd like to know what you think it must have been like to be a courtier at this time, and how the court must have felt so very different, so very empty. Do you think it was like that? How do you think you would have felt being a courtier at this time? But I'd also like to know your thoughts on why this happened so fast. I mean, Henry VIII could have taken, you know, a few weeks, couple of months to just let everything die down. You know, he's sent shockwaves through Europe with this. We know the reaction in Europe, total shock that Queen of England has been executed, and they're shocked that he moves on so quickly. I mean, Mary of Hungary kind of thinks that, oh, they'll probably get rid of this one as well. He could have left it. So why? Was it just because he was so desperate for a son? Or was it something like, had he slept with Jane Seymour, was there a risk of pregnancy and he needed to make sure that this child would be legitimate? So, or did he think she could possibly be pregnant? You know, was she showing signs of possibly being pregnant? Why do you think there was this speed that he couldn't just let things settle down, the gossip, you know, to quieten? Why do you think he had to move on so quickly? I'd love to know your thoughts. So yeah, this is just an off the cuff, you know, just me thinking aloud really, and I'd love to know your thoughts too. So please do comment and share. Thank you.